Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, most honored guests, and especially our speaker Mary today. We're going to approach the response to your evaluation by having Bob speak first, and then Manish will be the next, and I'll finish it off. But each of us will, in addition to the questions we are to answer, will be addressing what could the speaker have said that would have been more effective, and what did the speaker do well, and hopefully we won't repeat ourselves.
Yeah, thank you for your speech, Mary.
Speak up, please.
When it started, we start getting all kinds of handouts, and I have a natural tendency to say, oh my God, just shut down. But then you started to go into your speech, going into the reasons for a cold call. Oh my God. It's the most terrible thing that there is. But then as you go into this, the reasons, it was just fabulous. It was actually the best I've ever heard as far as explaining a cold call and the reasons, and having the different people talk about that. People don't know about the need to go to the end goal, change a good thing, establish trust, and I was just really taken away by that. But as your team, I thought your team could have used some more coaching, because towards the end I couldn't hear some of them. And then you brought up a book on cold calling, which I really appreciate. Cold calling fires me out, and that's helpful. And then when you went into your actual cold call with the representative from the school district, I was just kind of wondering. You seem friendly, you're a retired author and speaker, and I'm sitting there wondering, what's your hook? But I think that this is it's kind of implausible, because you are a speaker and author. I'd expect in most cases it would be a warm call, but for the purpose of the speech, you went with the cold call. And I thought you had, your questions. I never was able to shake that question, what's your angle on this? But you're friendly. I thought there was really good rapport. And then you actually brought in a book. Like you're really, really serious about this. And when you got into your discourse with the school district rep, I didn't take notes. I've really got to focus my energy on this. But I thought there was some really excellent discussion. And, you brought out a lot of good thoughts there. And I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you.
Well, what I found interesting about your speech was how you started it, and you actually engaged the whole audience. Everyone was engaged out there. Initially, when the handouts came to me, I was looking at them, trying to figure out how they're going to be utilized, but I knew that they would be utilized in some way or the other. So that was a very nice thing, and then you drove my attention to it by actually pointing out that you need to go and read the point too. So that actually drew me inside your speech. Now the concept of the cold call started when you were going on. There were a little misses for me, because I was having a little bit of extra time trying to concentrate on the words as well as the air conditioner behind the speech, and so I was stretching my ears, but but what I found really something which I can take back is you engaging the buyer into a conversation. And what I understand is, if you have a conversation which touches somebody else's points, a discussion happens. And what I probably would have loved to look at maybe next time is you're convincing the other how fulfilled you feel in this project you have initiated. And that could be by using some references, a real life reference, where how it has been helping you right now. And so, plus stretching a common chord, understanding the buyer, where the buyer is coming from, what the buyer really needs, and then probably striking a discussion on those points. Especially what I liked was the way you invited the buyer back once that role play had happened, and then asking that what did they feel about, what did she feel about it, and that was again another point to see that how engaging you were, how passionate you were about your project. In the end, it was a very esoteric speech. I got a lot to take from this. It was a speech well done, wisdom well spread, and a role play well endured.
Thank you, fellow evaluators. The question I have for Mary to give her feedback is, the speaker avoid talking about the product until the buyer asked about it. She was very effective in not putting that right in the face of her buyer. You built rapport. First, you had that audience participation at the very beginning, which I really liked, Mary, because you greeted us and you asked questions and you paused in order for us to answer the questions throughout. Even when you were with the buyer, you asked questions, but you paused. And this silence gives us time to think it through and see what objections do we really have. What information do we really need to gain more knowledge when we have a need for something such as you were explaining. I would have liked to have seen you, though, give the buyer just a couple, in this case, a couple pre-questions, even though it wouldn't have revealed the product, but so that you would have been well prepared to ask questions, because your buyers always have questions that make you want to not sell this product to them. So come up, and as you do more cold calling, you'll become more aware of what those questions are. Also, in visiting with us, I would have liked to see, even though we have this environment where it's hard to hear, is that women have been known in the career world for having soft voices. And if I look at our guest today, when he was speaking, or Elizabeth Perry, they open their mouth. And we have a tendency, because of our insecurity, not to do that. And if we practice just standing in front of the mirror and see how wide is our mouth, we do this in choir, how wide is our mouth, you will see that most of the time our teeth are pretty close together. And this kind of thing also helps when we do the cold calling to assure the buyer that we are confident of what we're doing. And it's hard to sell a product when the buyer doesn't ask questions. And we can't always have our buyers be prepared for questions. Therefore, but they usually raise, I said, are you decorating your bedroom? No, I'm decorating. No, I had you talk with the teachers personally to know where they're at in this retirement process, not just financially, but also with their own life. And those types of things can help you get through that cold calling. The other thing you may discover is that you have so much good material that you want to just talk about the material and somebody else do the selling for you. And you may discover this as you go through and not excel in the cold calling necessarily, but your materials. When you brought out that book, I could see your confidence. You knew about this book, you spent time in it, and you were prepared to talk about that book. And then you could also ask, and when may I get back to you about the materials I presented to you? You want me to contact you in 3 days or 5 days? And would you prefer an email or a phone call?
Have you written this down?
I will. But the fact that you had us prepared at the beginning was very effective. The fact that you were willing to take and role play something that's so hard for us to do when we have a product to sell, and the fact that you ended it with questions from the audience was excellent. Any questions? Oh no, personal comments from Mary.
Well, I wish Carol was here because I want to thank her for being such a good sport to do this. And you talked about me not speaking loud enough. Here's the irony. I was with my mother. I was there 3 nights this week. And she always says to me, you talk too loud. And I am talking so loud. And so I'm trying to, I didn't know that I don't talk loud enough. So I think I have to balance the feedback out here. And Bob, you comment about the input from the persuasive speaker. That's Toastmaster material. That's not mine. I suppose my choice is that I brought it forth to everybody else that you were glad about.
Presentation.
Because of that input. Because the content there, especially, I thought was helpful to me, was they don't know what they don't know. And your job as a salesperson is to come in to share that. Sales is not my background, and it would be a good thing to develop. In fact, I'm kind of thinking I might just try this for fun. I have nothing to lose. Just go into some school district and see what happens. What that skirt?
Thank you, Mary. Do we have time, Pat, for the...
Yeah, I have about a minute.
1 minute. Anyone in the audience would like to make a comment? Yes.
Thank you. My comments to you, Mary. First of all, cold call selling is very difficult. The role playing is part of the persuasive process, which I found very, very intriguing, and it'll help you as you go forward in dealing with backdoor sellers. Also, you came across as a problem solver and not an Isurian sales representative. That really lifted your credibility.
Thank you. One more comment? Perry.
It might have been interesting to see this as a telephone conversation, but that's an even different dynamic and even colder.
Yeah.
In most cases, you've never even talked to this individual.
Well, thank you, audience, for all your listening skills and your participation, and thank you, Mary and Michelle.